Help! Somebody help my babies! Jada's voice shattered the chaos of the ER as paramedics burst through the ambulance bay doors, 2 gurneys racing side by side. Both small bodies were motionless, covered in blood. The trauma surgeon at the nurses' station jerked his head up and ran. Dr. Harrison Wells had seen countless emergencies, but this, 2 identical boys, both critical, both dying, made his stomach drop. He reached the gurneys, his trained eyes moving rapidly between them. Internal bleeding, head trauma, cardiac distress, brain injury. Both needed surgery now. But there was only one of him. Get me 2 ORs prepped. Page Dr. Chen. Tell them we have minutes, not hours. His hands hovered over both boys, his mind calculating the impossible. One had to go first. One had to wait. Someone might not survive that wait. He made the choice in 3 seconds. This one. Or one. Move now. His hands closed around the first gurney as he sprinted toward the operating room. Behind him, the second boy remained on the gurney, alone, still bleeding. Jada stumbled forward, her legs buckling. What about my other son? Please. You can't just leave him. But the doctor was already gone, disappeared behind swinging doors that slammed shut like a coffin lid. She collapsed against the wall, her whole body shaking. That voice. That face. She knew him. Before we continue, hit subscribe, like this video, and tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from. I believe this story found you today for a reason. Now, let's get back to the story. 6 years ago, one night in San Diego. One night that gave her Isaiah and Elijah. One night before he vanished. And now he was making a choice he didn't understand. Choosing between his own sons. Sons he didn't know existed. A nurse touched her shoulder gently. Ma'am, Dr. Chen is on the way. We're doing everything we can. But Jada couldn't breathe. Her mind screamed the truth Harrison didn't know. Those boys look exactly like you. They have your eyes, your smile, your stubborn chin. You're choosing which one lives. You're choosing between your own children. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere down the hall, alarms blared. Minutes crawled. And Jada stood frozen in the corridor, watching the operating room doors, knowing that when they finally opened, everything would change. He would see her. He would know. And the impossible choice he'd just made would destroy him. The hotel ballroom glittered with champagne glasses and polite laughter. Jada Moore stood near the refreshment table, nursing a glass of wine she didn't really want, wondering why she'd let her boss convince her to attend this medical conference mixer. She was just a billing coordinator. She didn't belong among surgeons and specialists discussing procedures she could barely pronounce. First time at one of these? The voice came from behind her, warm and curious. She turned. The man was tall, with kind eyes and a smile that made her forget she'd been planning to leave early. That obvious. Only because you look as uncomfortable as I feel, he said, extending his hand. Harrison Wells. Jada Moore. One conversation became 2. 2 became an hour. By the time the mixer ended, they'd moved to the hotel bar, then to a quiet bench overlooking the bay. Harrison told her about his acceptance to a surgical fellowship in London. The opportunity of a lifetime, he called it. She told him about her dreams of going back to school, becoming something more than paperwork and billing codes. When he kissed her, it felt inevitable. When she woke in his hotel room the next morning, sunlight streaming through unfamiliar curtains, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. But the bed beside her was empty. A note on hotel stationery sat on the pillow. Had to catch an early flight. Last night was perfect. H. Below it, a phone number, hastily scrawled. Jada stared at the pregnancy test, her hands shaking. 2 pink lines. Twins, the doctor would tell her a week later. She called Harrison's number 17 times that first day. Disconnected. She tried email. Bounced back. She searched every social media platform. Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Nothing. Dr. Harrison Wells had vanished into thin air. Or maybe he'd just vanished from her life. She sat on her bathroom floor, arms wrapped around her knees, and realized the truth. She was completely alone. No family nearby. No father's name to put on the birth certificate. Just her and 2 babies she hadn't planned for. And somewhere across an ocean, a man who would never know they existed. The apartment was too small, too loud, and too full of love. Jada dropped her keys on the kitchen counter, her scrubs still smelling like disinfectant from her double shift at the billing office. Every muscle in her body ached. Mommy, can we get McDonald's? Please. Isaiah bounced on the worn couch, his curls wild, that smile, Harrison's smile, lighting up his whole face. Elijah sat cross-legged on the floor, building an elaborate tower with blocks, his brow furrowed in concentration. Harrison's focus. Harrison's intensity. Jada saw him in them every single day, and it never stopped hurting. Please, Mom. Elijah looked up, adding his quiet plea to his brother's enthusiasm. Jada checked her wallet. $17 until Friday. But the look on their faces. Okay. But just happy meals. They erupted in cheers, and despite her exhaustion, despite the bills stacked on the counter and the notice from the landlord warning about late rent, she smiled. This was her life now. 2 jobs. Medical billing during the day. Weekend shifts at a call center. 1-bedroom apartment where the boys shared a room and she slept on the pull-out couch. Bedtime stories read by flashlight when the electricity got shut off. Birthdays celebrated with dollar store decorations and homemade cake. And always the questions. Mom, Isaiah asked as they walked to the car. Why don't we have a dad? The question landed like it always did. A punch she never saw coming even though she knew it was inevitable. Your dad lives far away, she said, the rehearsed answer coming automatically. He doesn't know about you. How can he not know? Elijah's logical mind couldn't accept it. Jada buckled them into their car seats, avoiding their eyes. Sometimes adults lose touch. That's all. A lie. Or maybe a half-truth. Either way, it was easier than admitting she'd given up searching after the first year. Easier than explaining that she'd convinced herself they were better off without a father who might leave again. She slid into the driver's seat and started the engine, checking her rearview mirror at 2 perfect little faces that would never know how much she'd sacrificed. How much she'd loved them from the moment she saw those 2 pink lines. How every day, she wondered if she'd made the right choice staying silent. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting the Los Angeles sky in shades of orange and pink. Isaiah and Elijah sang along to the radio in the back seat, their voices slightly off-key but full of joy. Jada smiled at them in the rearview mirror, their Happy Meal boxes already empty, their laughter filling the small car. Mom, can we get ice cream tomorrow? Isaiah asked. We'll see, baby. We'll. The headlights came from nowhere. Blinding. White hot. No time to brake. No time to scream. The impact hit like an explosion. Metal shrieked against metal. Glass shattered. The world spun, sky ground sky again. Jada's head slammed against something hard. Pain exploded behind her eyes. Then the car stopped moving, resting at a sickening angle, and for one horrible moment, there was only silence. Then the screaming started. Her screaming. Isaiah. Elijah. Jada clawed at her seatbelt, her fingers slick with blood she didn't know was hers. The airbag deflated limply against her chest. She kicked the driver's door open and stumbled out, the world tilting dangerously. The back passenger side was crushed inward, crumpled like paper. No. No, 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 no. She yanked the back door open and her heart stopped. Both boys hung limp in their car seats. Blood streaked Isaiah's face. Elijah's head lolled at an unnatural angle. Neither moved. Neither made a sound. Help! Somebody help me! Her voice tore from her throat, raw and desperate. My babies! Please! Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. Red and blue lights painted the wreckage. Footsteps pounded toward her. Voices shouted medical jargon she couldn't process. Paramedics swarmed the car, moving with terrifying urgency. 2 critical pediatric patients, 5 years old, twins. Possible internal bleeding, head trauma. This one's not responding. Neither is this one. We're losing them. Go now. Both of them. Hands pulled Jada back as paramedics worked frantically to extract her sons from the twisted metal. She watched, numb, as they loaded Isaiah onto one gurney, Elijah onto another. So small. So still. So covered in blood. Ma'am, you need to come with us. She climbed into the ambulance, her hands finding theirs. One small hand in each of hers. Both cold. Both limp. Stay with me, she whispered, her tears falling onto their motionless fingers. Please, babies. Stay with Mommy. Please don't leave me. Please. The ambulance screamed through the streets toward Los Angeles Mercy General. And Jada held on, praying to anyone who would listen. The overhead speaker crackled to life just as Harrison was finishing his coffee. Trauma team to Ambulance Bay. Mass casualty. 2 critical pediatric patients. ETA 2 minutes. He was already running before the announcement finished. The ambulance screamed into the bay, back doors flying open. 2 gurneys emerged simultaneously. Paramedics doing chest compressions on both. Harrison's trained eyes took in the scene in seconds. Identical twin boys, approximately 5 years old, covered in blood. What do we have? His voice was steady, clinical, even as his heart rate spiked. Car accident. T-bone collision. Patient A, internal injuries, possible ruptured spleen, collapsing lung, BP dropping. Patient B, severe head trauma, unresponsive, pupils unequal, likely subdural hematoma. Harrison moved between the gurneys, his hands assessing, his mind calculating. Both boys were crashing. Both needed surgery immediately. He could hear their mother screaming somewhere behind him, but he couldn't focus on that now. Only the injuries. Only the odds. Boy A, internal bleeding he could control. Maybe. Boy B, brain bleed that was probably spreading with every second. Both dying. Only one surgeon. Where's Dr. Chen? Harrison barked. 10 minutes out, stuck in traffic. 10 minutes. In 10 minutes, one of these boys would be dead. Maybe both. His hands hovered over Boy A, Isaiah, according to the chart. Labored breathing. Fading pulse. But salvageable. If he moved now. This one. Harrison's voice cut through the chaos. Get him 2 or 1 now. Prep for emergency splenectomy and chest tube insertion. He grabbed the gurney, already moving, nurses flanking him on both sides. What about my other son? A woman's voice, shredded with panic, cut through the noise. Please. You can't just leave him. Please. But Harrison was already through the doors, the gurney wheels squealing on the polished floor. Behind him, Elijah remained alone on the second gurney, still bleeding, still unresponsive, still dying. 8 minutes until Dr. Chen arrived. Harrison didn't look back. Couldn't look back. He'd made his choice. He just didn't know he'd chosen between his own sons. The operating room doors slammed shut behind him, and the clock started ticking. Scalpel. Harrison's hand moved with practiced precision, opening Isaiah's abdomen. Blood pooled immediately, dark and fast. The ruptured spleen was worse than he'd thought. Suction. I need better visualization. BP's dropping. 80/50. Clamp. Now. His fingers worked quickly, isolating the splenic artery. Every second the boy bled, he was closer to dying. Down the hall in or two, Dr. Chen had just arrived, breathless from running. Elijah lay on the table, still unresponsive. 8 minutes had passed since the accident. 8 minutes of brain swelling, bleeding, damage spreading like poison through delicate tissue. Get me a CT. No, there's no time. We're going in now. Prep for craniotomy. Back in or one, Harrison ligated the damaged vessels. His movements automatic after years of training. Starting splenectomy. How's his pressure? Holding at 85. Barely. He removed the shattered spleen, packed the bleeding, moved to the chest. The collapsed lung needed a tube, needed air. The monitor's steady beep became a long, piercing scream. He's flatlining. Harrison's world narrowed to that sound. Start compressions. Charge to 200. A nurse climbed onto the table, began pumping the small chest. Harrison grabbed the defibrillator paddles. Clear. Isaiah's body jerked. The line stayed flat. Again. 300 clear. Nothing. In or two, Dr. Chen worked frantically, drilling into Elijah's skull, racing against time Harrison had already stolen. The subdural hematoma was massive, the pressure building, squeezing the brain. I need more suction, I can't see. Doctor, his ICP is through the roof. Back in or one, Harrison refused to stop. 20 minutes of compressions. 30. His arms burned. Sweat dripped into his eyes. Doctor, maybe we should. No. Again. Clear. He shocked Isaiah's heart for the 7th time. And finally, mercifully, a blip on the monitor. Then another. We have a rhythm. Harrison sagged against the table, his hands shaking. 40 minutes. 40 minutes he'd fought for this boy's life. 40 minutes Elijah had been alone. 40 minutes that might have cost the other boy everything. In or two, Dr. Chen evacuated the blood clot, but the damage was done. How much, they wouldn't know until the boy woke up. If he woke up. 2 operating rooms. 2 identical boys. 1 impossible choice. And the surgeon who made it had no idea the weight he'd just added to his soul. Harrison pushed through the operating room doors 4 hours after he'd entered. His scrubs were stiff with dried blood, not all of it the boy's. His hands still trembled from adrenaline and exhaustion. He pulled off his surgical cap, running a hand through sweat-dampened hair. The waiting room. He needed to find the mother, give her the update, tell her both boys had survived. Barely. He scanned the sparse crowd of anxious faces. And then he saw her. Time stopped. The woman sat hunched in a plastic chair, her face buried in her hands. But he knew those hands. Knew the curve of her shoulders. Knew the way her hair fell in dark waves even when disheveled. No. It couldn't be. She looked up. Tears streaked her face. Their eyes met across the waiting room. Recognition hit Harrison like a physical blow. The air left his lungs. Jada. From San Diego. From 6 years ago. From the night that. His feet moved without permission, carrying him toward her. She stood slowly, swaying, her eyes wide with the same shock that paralyzed him. Jada. His voice came out hoarse, broken. She nodded, opening her mouth, but no sound emerged. Harrison's mind reeled. What was she doing here? Why was she? The chart. He still held the surgical chart in his hand. His eyes dropped to it automatically, reading details he'd been too focused to process earlier. Patient names: Isaiah Moore, Elijah Moore. Age: 5 years old. Date of birth: March 15th. 9 months after San Diego. The waiting room tilted. The fluorescent lights became too bright. His vision tunneled. 5 years old. Twins. Born 9 months after that night. He looked up at Jada, the question forming before he could stop it. Are they? Yes. Her voice cracked. Barely a whisper. They're yours. Harrison's legs gave out. He collapsed into the nearest chair, the chart slipping from his fingers. Those boys on the operating table. The identical faces. The choice he'd had to make. Which one to save first, which one to leave dying while he operated. His sons. His children. He'd chosen between his own sons and he hadn't even known. I tried to find you, Jada said, tears streaming freely now. Your number, it was disconnected. You were gone. I searched everywhere. But Harrison couldn't hear her. Couldn't process anything beyond the crushing weight of what he'd just learned. He'd just spent 40 minutes bringing one of his sons back from the dead while the other lay bleeding in another room. He'd made that choice. And he would have to live with it forever. Harrison sat motionless, staring at his blood-stained hands. His son's blood. The thought wouldn't settle in his mind, kept sliding away like something too large to comprehend. I called you, Jada said, her voice raw. 27 times that first week. The number it kept saying disconnected. I tried email. It bounced back. I searched for you on every platform I could think of. Facebook, LinkedIn, hospital directories. Nothing. You were just gone. I changed my number when I moved to London. The words felt hollow, inadequate. The fellowship, they gave me a UK phone. I didn't think, his voice broke. You were pregnant and I was just gone? I didn't know what else to do. I had no way to reach you. No way to tell you. 5 years. Harrison looked up at her, his eyes burning. 5 years I didn't know they existed. 5 years I could have. He couldn't finish. Could have what? Been there. Been a father. Been anything other than the stranger who just chose which son to save first? A nurse approached hesitantly. Dr. Wells? The patient's status. Harrison stood on shaking legs. Tell me. Patient A, Isaiah, is stable. Critical but improving. He's responding well post-op. We're cautiously optimistic. The nurse paused, her expression darkening. Patient B, Elijah, is still unconscious. Significant brain swelling. We've induced a medical coma to reduce ICP. Dr. Chen is concerned about the delay before surgery. There may be permanent damage. We won't know the extent until he wakes up. If he wakes up. The floor dropped away beneath Harrison's feet. If he'd chosen Elijah first. If Dr. Chen had arrived sooner. If he'd been faster with Isaiah. The questions were knives, each one cutting deeper. This is my fault, he whispered. I chose wrong. You didn't know which one, Jada started. I chose. The words exploded from him, his composure shattering. I looked at both of them and I chose. And now one of my sons might never. His voice cracked. He pressed his palms against his eyes, his shoulders shaking. What if he doesn't wake up? What if he wakes up and he's not? What if I destroyed him because I saved his brother first? Harrison. You don't understand. He looked at her, tears streaming down his face. The surgeon who never cried. Who never broke. Who always stayed in control. That's not a choice a doctor makes. That's a choice a father makes. And I made it without even knowing. Jada reached for his hand. He flinched but didn't pull away. You didn't know, she said softly. You saved them both. But Harrison couldn't hear her. Couldn't accept absolution for a sin that would never stop bleeding. He'd chosen between his sons. And one of them might pay for it with everything. Isaiah woke on day 2, his eyes fluttering open to harsh hospital lights and the steady beep of monitors. Jada was at his side instantly, tears streaming down her face as she kissed his forehead. Mommy. His voice was small, confused. Where's Elijah? The question shattered her. He's resting, baby. The doctors are taking care of him. Is he okay? Jada couldn't answer. Across the hall, Harrison sat vigil by Elijah's bed. He'd barely left the hospital since the surgery, catching a few hours of sleep in the on-call room, showering in the staff locker room. He was no longer their surgeon. Dr. Chen had taken over their care. He was something else now. Something he didn't know how to be. A father. He held Elijah's small hand, studying features that were unmistakably his own. The curve of the nose. The shape of the jaw. How had he not seen it in the ER? How had he been so blind? I'm sorry, he whispered into the silence. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know you were mine. I didn't. His voice broke. Please wake up. Please. I need you to wake up. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Elijah didn't move. Jada stood in the doorway, watching. She'd been angry at first, 6 years of anger, finally having a target. But watching Harrison break apart, piece by piece, sitting by their son's bed every night whispering apologies the boy couldn't hear, her anger was shifting into something more complicated. He was suffering. Maybe more than she was. On day 6, Elijah's eyes finally opened. He's waking up. A nurse called, and suddenly the room filled with people. Doctors, monitors, urgent voices. Harrison stood back, his heart hammering, as they assessed. Please be okay. Please be. But something was wrong. Elijah's eyes moved sluggishly, unfocused. When the neurologist held up fingers, the boy couldn't track them. When asked to squeeze a hand, his movements were slow, uncoordinated. Dr. Chen pulled Harrison and Jada into the hall, his expression grave. There's damage, he said quietly. The delay before surgery, combined with the severity of the bleed, he has memory impairment, processing delays, and significant motor skill deficits. He'll need extensive therapy. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, possibly speech. We're looking at months, maybe years of rehabilitation. Harrison felt the floor fall away beneath him. His choice. His decision. His son was paying the price. Will he recover? Jada's voice trembled. We don't know yet. Children's brains are resilient. But, Dr. Chen hesitated. Some of this damage may be permanent. Harrison turned and walked to the nearest supply closet, closed the door, and finally let himself shatter completely. 3 months post-accident, Harrison knew the route to Children's Therapy Center by heart. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, physical therapy. Monday and Wednesday afternoons, occupational therapy. Friday, speech therapy. He'd rearranged his entire surgical schedule around Elijah's sessions. Okay, buddy, let's try again. The physical therapist, Maria, positioned Elijah's feet on the parallel bars. Just like we practiced. Elijah's face scrunched in concentration, his small hands gripping the bars with the clumsy determination Harrison had come to recognize. One step. Then another. His leg dragged slightly, the left side still weaker. That's it. You're doing great. Harrison called from where he sat, taking notes on the exercises he'd practice with Elijah at home later. Isaiah sat beside him, his own recovery complete, watching his brother with fierce protectiveness. Come on, Elijah. You got this. 4 steps before Elijah's leg buckled. Maria caught him gently. Good work today. That's one more than yesterday. One more than yesterday. Harrison had learned to celebrate these microscopic victories. A word remembered, a button fastened, a single additional step. Jada watched from the doorway, as she often did, watching the man who'd been a stranger transform into something else. Not perfect, but present. Every single day. One afternoon, mid-session, Elijah looked up at Harrison with those serious eyes, Harrison's eyes, and asked, "You're the doctor who saved Isaiah, right?" Harrison's throat closed. He knelt beside the parallel bars. "I tried to save you both." Elijah tilted his head, thinking with that careful slowness that came after the injury. Then he smiled, that pure, innocent 5-year-old smile that shattered Harrison every time. "You did. We are both here." Something broke open in Harrison's chest. Something that had been locked tight since the moment he'd learned the truth. Permission. Forgiveness. From the one person whose opinion mattered most. 6 months after the accident, on a sunny afternoon that felt like grace, Elijah stood at one end of the therapy room without support. Harrison knelt 15 feet away. "You ready?" Maria asked. Elijah nodded, his face determined. He took one step. Then another. His gait was uneven, his balance uncertain, but he was walking. On his own. Toward Harrison. 5 steps. 10. 12. Harrison's vision blurred. "Come on, son. You've got this." 15 steps. Elijah stumbled into Harrison's arms, and Harrison caught him, lifted him, held him like he should have been holding him for 5 years. "I'm so proud of you," Harrison whispered into his son's hair. Jada and Isaiah joined them, wrapping around both of them in a tangle of arms and tears and laughter. Not a perfect ending. The trauma didn't erase. Elijah still struggled. The questions still haunted Harrison in the dark hours of the night. But this was real. This was showing up. This was family. Harrison looked at Elijah, his voice steady with the weight of a vow. "I'll never leave again." And this time, he knew exactly how to keep that promise. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, let me know in the comment where you are watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another beautiful story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want you to miss it for anything.